Chapter 626, Small White Fish. Lu Shu stared blankly at Anthony, who was laughing sheepishly. Was it appropriate for you to go catch fish while there was danger here? But the silver fish seemed very special. It was as big as his palm, yet he could not sense any waves of energy from the fish. These remains were odd. As for the 4 fruits he had plucked earlier, Lu Shu did not know what to do. But Lu Xiaoyu caught another fish. This cannot be right. Lu Shu was puzzled. Since he arrived here from the island, he had not seen any living things. Was this fish special? Lu Shu grasped the tail and shook it. There was no reaction from the fish. He asked curiously, "What's with this fish? Is it dead?" The deep sea white sand wrote in the background. "I don't know. It was already like this when I found it. It looked yummy, so I caught it." Lu Shu pondered. He felt that now was not the time to be concerned with the fish. He shoved it into the Seal of Lands. As Lu Shu shoved the fish into the Seal of Lands, the sleeping chaos awakened once again and swallowed the fish. Lu Shu became annoyed. "Spit it out. Lu Xiaoyu has not eaten, and yet here you are eating. How do I explain this to Lu Xiaoyu?" Chaos suddenly shouted in pain. Lu Shu looked at Chaos, which had grown to over 10 meters from its original 2 meters. The skin of Chaos repeatedly expanded and healed. It was as if the silver fish had suddenly regained consciousness and threw a fit within Chaos' body. But in the end, it did not break through Chaos' body. Chaos once again went to sleep. Lu Shu did not know whether it had fainted from the pain, or if it had to digest the dragon stage and the silver fish. Lu Shu was shocked. A small silver fish actually had such an effect. If he could gather a few more, would Chaos be able to become like a dragon? A black dragon of a few hundred meters long. How impressive would that be? He pretended that nothing had happened and asked, "Where did you get the silver fish? Are there any more?" The deep sea white sand asked in the background. "Are you planning to steal my small silver fish?" Lu Shu felt awkward.
Ha! Ha!
Impossible. When he went back, he would find a similar fish to buy. If not, something would definitely happen. He quickly rushed back. There were 52 black-armored soldiers left waiting. Lu Shu thought about what he should say to split the black-armored soldiers into batches. Should he say that he had been ambushed in the trenches? That was not convincing enough. If he wanted to do so, he had to at least have some injuries, right? Lu Shu smeared some blood on his face and the black armor. Then, he rushed back. He reached the gate of the main palace and shouted, "We've been ambushed by the humans. 10 of you, come with me to provide support." Another 10 black-armored soldiers came out and followed Lu Shu. Lu Shu brought them to make a long-ranged raid. The black-armored soldiers did not know what exactly had happened. Why did their leader not tell them anything? After they reached the trench, Lu Shu pretended to look around. Weird. There was obviously an ambush here. But where is everyone? Someone suddenly asked, "Master, have they all died?" Lu Shu was unhappy. "What kind of unlucky things are you saying? Hurry up." Ba. Ba. From Kujian's Distress, plus 666. From. Lu Shu gave out commands, while Lu Xiaoyu controlled Anthony to launch a sneak attack. After facing the 10 black-armored soldiers earlier, Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu knew that they could not let them work together. It was best to kill them before they had the chance to cooperate. This way, they would be able to simplify matters. The group of black-armored soldiers encountered the deep sea white sand and thought that it was an ambush by the humans. But Lu Shu also made his move at the same time. The soldiers only guarded themselves against the deep sea white sand, but not against Lu Shu. It was an easy kill for Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow. Lu Shu obtained 10 more sets of black armored. Lu Shu could not use the same excuse as he did just now. What should he say this time? Suddenly, Lu Shu realized that the water behind him had started to stir up like a spout. Lu Shu turned and realized that there were two very strong waves of energy rushing over. The waves of energy were from Class A's. Had Nie Ting entered the remains too? If not, Chen Bailey was the only Class A in the entire remains. In a blink of an eye, Lu Shu could see the two figures rushing over. Lu Shu turned around and jumped down the trench. He used his water-type abilities to propel himself towards the palace. He sped through the water like a torpedo launched by a submarine. He shouted from above the palace, "Enemy attack!" He turned around and saw the puppet master, which he had encountered at the Kochang Island remains. Why was he here? Lu Shu was very uncomfortable. Lu Shu could still clearly remember the fight between the puppet master and Li Xianyi. This was not a presence that Lu Shu could deal with. Chen Bailey was chasing relentlessly behind the puppet master. Lu Shu suspected that the two of them had already fought on land. For some reason, they had come underwater to fight. For some reason, Lu Shu felt that the puppet master had come prepared. It was as if he knew that there was something in these remains. His objective was very clear. The puppet master wore a black robe and floated above the crystal palace. The ironclad puppet stood beside him. Lu Shu looked up. The hood of the black robe was pitch black. Lu Shu could not see the puppet master's face. The ironclad puppet's body was fully covered by the iron armor. Their movements were as smooth as on land. This was the function of the protective gear. The puppet master walked into the crystal palace. He laughed in a somber manner. This is not an enemy attack. Call that small white fish out to greet his guest. Tell him that the puppet master has arrived. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. From Lu Shu's distress, plus 666. Lu Shu was shocked. He wanted to ask Lu Xiaoyu, did she steal the majesty of the black-armored soldiers while he was fast asleep? Lu Xiaoyu had caught a silver fish, but the puppet master said to call the small white fish out to greet his guest. It could not be a coincidence. It was as if 10,000 mythological animals were running in his head, saying, "Bro, you may not believe this, but the small white fish you are looking for is gone. Puppet master, please wait." Lu Shu turned and ran into the palace. He wanted to use this chance to make sure that the silver fish Lu Xiaoyu had caught was not the majesty. He would also have a reason to go in, right? Chapter 627, Everyone Under the Throne is a Lackey. After Lu Shu entered, he realized that there was a stage similar to the dragon stage, but was much bigger than the dragon stage. But what made Lu Shu shocked was that there was nothing on the jade green stage. It was clear that there was nothing there. Lu Shu asked in a low voice, "Did you get that small silver fish from here?" The deep sea white sand emerged from the ground. "Yes, it was on the stage. I have no idea who put it there." Lu Shu was dumbfounded. Lu Shu did not produce any distress points. He could only praise Lu Xiaoyu's luck. She had somehow settled the strongest being in the remains. From the puppet master's tone, the small white fish was not very strong. After all, back then when the puppet master was talking to a Class A blood devil, he did not have an imposing tone. Such a tone only surfaced when he was talking to a Class B blood devil. Looking at the empty palace, Lu Shu had a feeling that the dragon stage was a relic. But he did not touch it and end the remains. He ran out again and waved at the puppet master. Orders from the Majesty. Attack him. Chen Bailey had rushed over. To be honest, Chen Bailey was quite surprised. He had thought that the puppet master was on good terms with the beings in the remains. Furthermore, he had heard the puppet master's voice from far away. He thought that he was warning the beings in the remains. But in the end, they had an internal conflict? This did not make sense. Lu Shu did not end the remains because he wanted to fight the puppet master in the remains. If he ended the remains here, the puppet master and Chen Bailey would fight outside. This would result in many injuries, as all the Daoyuan class students would be there too. With Lu Shu's command, the black-armored soldiers came together and soared in the water. The puppet master laughed coldly. You all are looking to die. I see that the small white fish has forgotten the honor of our master. Wait until master comes back. Everyone under the throne is a lackey. You will never enter Samsara. Lu Shu was puzzled. Who was the owner of the puppet master? Wasn't he, a Class A expert, a lackey too? The puppet master seemed very loyal. The Class A expert's only wish for his entire life seemed to be drawing in former subordinates for his master. The ironclad puppet rushed towards the black-armored soldiers. He punched the ripple of defense that the 52 black-armored soldiers had formed, causing it to bulge inwards. But one could die from the bites of many ants. The combined defense of 52 mid-class Cs was too much even for the ironclad puppet. Lu Shu was lucky. Thankfully, he had not gotten rid of all the black-armored soldiers yet. If not, he would be at a loss. The puppet master's black robes were tangled up with Chen Bailey. As the two Class A experts fought, the water above the crystal palace churned. Chen Bailey's green flying swords circled the puppet master, waiting for the opportune moment to attack. The horsetail whisk in his hands got hold of the undercurrent and he attacked the puppet master. Suddenly, more than 10 wooden puppets flew out from the puppet master's black robes. They flew towards Chen Bailey. The joints of the wooden puppets were connected, like dolls in a puppet show. They did not seem to have much destructive power. But the next moment, Lu Shu was shocked. Red threads appeared from the arms of the puppets and headed towards Chen Bailey. They were so fast that even Lu Shu could not dodge them. The red thread was very thin. Chen Bailey quickly dodged the thread. Lu Shu saw that there were many holes in Chen Bailey's Taoist robes. The red threads from the puppet dolls were very sharp. The puppet dolls laughed and surged towards Chen Bailey. They surrounded him and produced more thread. The puppet dolls stretched out their arms and held on to the red thread from their fellow dolls, creating a net to trap Chen Bailey. Chen Bailey's green swords quickly launched a counterattack. They were like bullets that cut through the web. The web was completely destroyed. What an insignificant skill, Chen Bailey said and laughed coldly. He threw a talisman. An ancient hero in golden armor and holding a long sword appeared in the water. The ancient warrior appeared in front of the puppet master in the blink of an eye. The puppet master had no choice but to retreat backwards. The ancient hero's voice was loud and clear. I am Lu Ling. I will slay any scoundrels with my sword. The water was split with a slash of his long sword. Even the puppet master did not dare to fight the ancient hero head-on. If the ironclad puppet was by his side, they could work together to kill this ancient hero. But the ironclad puppet was being held back by the 52 black-armored soldiers. The puppet master had planned to include that small white fish in his forces. The two of them would kill all the humans in this remains. But he did not expect that the small white fish would change sides and attack him. The puppet master's black robe flew behind. The lower hem of the black robe was cut by the ancient hero. The puppet master suddenly rushed towards the main palace. The first to be affected was Lu Shu, who was in front of the gate. Lu Shu hurriedly hid at the side. He did not plan to fight the puppet master head-on. When the black-armored soldiers saw this, they prepared to go over and protect him. Suddenly, the ironclad puppet let out a sudden burst of power, breaking the already distorted ripple of defense. Without their defense, the black-armored soldiers were defeated by the ironclad puppet as easy as burning dry weeds and rotten wood. With a punch, their armor did not break, but the soldiers inside the armor were badly battered by the impact. Lu Shu ran far away from the main palace. Chen Bailey suddenly felt that this was familiar. The puppet master came to the gate of the main palace and laughed. "Small white fish, I will kill you on behalf of our master, you traitor." The next moment. "Small white fish. Where are you hiding?" The puppet master was furious. He did not see small white fish in the palace. He suddenly realized that a small accident may have happened. Didn't that black-armored soldier enter the palace to report to small white fish? No, wait. There was something wrong with that soldier. The puppet master went out and looked at Lu Shu. "You are not small white fish's guard. Die." Lu Shu turned and ran. "Save me." The deep sea white sand attacked the puppet master in an attempt to block him. The ground of the palace formed a giant stone hand that went to slap the puppet master. With a wave of his robes, the puppet master turned the giant stone hand into powder. The ironclad puppet tried to intercept Lu Shu. But it did not expect that the ancient hero would come to it. Chen Bailey had come to protect Lu Shu too. Chapter 628, Do You Know Who I Am? The puppet master hovered in the sea, looking to be in deep thought. Meanwhile, Chen Bailey had retrieved another talisman, ready to use at any time. "I will take your life another day." "You have my word," the puppet master said with a cold laugh. Apparently, he decided not to linger any longer. But Lu Shu was confused about one thing: how could he get out? Back then, the puppet master had thrown the mask to Lu Shu because him touching the relic could not close the remains. Therefore, it was possible to drain him to death right here with Anthony's help so long as the relic remained untouched. The puppet master was too powerful. The two encounters Lu Shu had with him had already impressed him deeply. At the moment, the old man might not have won the fight alone had he not prepared the talismans in advance. But Lu Shu had another question to clarify. "Do you know who I am?" Lu Shu asked curiously. He was still using Kuming's face. "I will," said the puppet master. "Great," Lu Shu said happily. From Cloud Yi's distress, plus 199. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. So the puppet master's real name was Cloud Yi? It sounded strange, though Lu Shu could not explain why. For all this while, the puppet master had given him the impression of an old, satanic devil. Anyway, one could never be anywhere close to a decent individual if he had lived for so long playing with a gruesome puppet all day long. Hence, the elegant name was really a poor match for his image. In the next moment, the ironclad puppet returned to the puppet master's side under his call. Then, the latter crushed a wild pearl in his hand and vanished together with his puppet. Lu Shu was utterly stunned. What? It's actually possible to exit the remains without the relic? That made it impossible to even chase him. But this time Lu Shu could be certain that the puppet master indeed could not touch the relic directly to close the remains. Why was it so? Could it be a privilege of the humans? However, if the puppet master decided to go on a killing spree in the outside world now, Chen Hao and the others would be dead in no time. A bunch of Class Cs and below could never survive the attack of a Class A. He and Chen Bailey must get out immediately. The relic is the jade green stage in the main palace. Go. Old man. Lu Shu shouted to Chen Bailey, while he himself rushed to the black-armored soldiers. Racing against time, Lu Shu shoved all the black armor into his seal of lands before Chen Bailey could obtain the relic. No matter what, he could not abandon the armor because it might be of use in the future. Hence, as Chen Bailey flew inside the main palace, he turned to look at Lu Shu picking up armor, speechlessly. Lu Shu was a man of principle. In the Beimang remains, he had kept the relic in secret, although it became an open secret in the end. Besides, he had made a significant contribution to the entire heavenly network during his Japan mission. If Takashima Tairatsu was alive, how would they feel with a Class A scheming against them all day? Even if Nie Ting defeated Takashima Tairatsu, what if he did not kill him? No matter how powerful Nieting was, what if Takashima decided to avoid him and take revenge in the future? Hence, it was no exaggeration that Lu Shu had eradicated the biggest threat to the heavenly network. Therefore, the superiors had allowed him to keep the Seal of Lands for himself. Moreover, as in overseas remains, things obtained in the Kochang Island did not have to be surrendered either. But it was a different matter here in the Lop Nur remains. With Chen Bailey's presence and the investment of so many resources on the side of the heavenly network, Lu Shu could not pocket the relic as he wished. Strategic resources like that were better off left to the network, and Lu Shu would be happy with those 100 sets of black armor. As soon as Lu Shu put all the black armor, including the one he was wearing, into his Seal of Lands, his face returned to his own. The images of the remains started collapsing in front of his eyes, gushing towards the main palace. He heaved a sigh of relief. The 10 days adventure in the remains had finally come to an end, and those Daoyuan class students were safe too. But Lu Shu did not let down his guard completely, because he knew he had to fight the puppet master outside the remains together with Chen Bailey. However, when he returned to the real world, he saw Chen Hao and the rest leaning against a vehicle, chatting and smoking. It seemed that the puppet master had never appeared at all. Lu Shu asked at once, "Did you see anyone get out of the remains in advance?" Chen Hao said with a smile, "Are you fooling me because I've never been to the remains? How can someone get out of the remains in advance?" Lu Shu and Chen Bailey exchanged a startled look. It appeared that the puppet master had been transported to somewhere else. "It would be hard to kill him if he can teleport like this," Chen Bailey said with a sigh. Lu Shu understood his concern. The puppet master could escape once he realized the conditions were against him. But Lu Shu said after some consideration, "I think he may not be able to use it anytime, anywhere. Maybe the number of white pearls he has is limited, and the one he used was the only one in the remains. It can't be the last one." Chen Bailey shook his head and said, "He could have done much better than using up his only means of survival. Not all hope was lost for him back then." Lu Shu pondered and realized this line of thought made sense. He could have returned to Safety Island and hold Daoyuan class students hostage, or even capture Lu Shu. "Where's the armor?" Chen Bailey asked, looking sideways at Lu Shu. "Oh. With me," said Lu Shu. He poured out a few hundred sets from his Seal of Lands. Chen Bailey said calmly, "More." A few hundred sets more were poured out. Chen Bailey was getting impatient. "More. Can't you stop being naughty, kiddo? They are very useful to us. Why do you need so many of them?" This time, Lu Shu took out thousands of sets in one go. The pile was as huge as a hill. All Daoyuan class students who had just exited the remains drew a startled breath. They were quite happy for getting a few parts of the armor, and those who obtained 1 or 2 full suits were complacent about their achievement. But their gain was nothing in comparison to Lu Shu's. Knowing that Lu Shu had no intention to surrender the black armor, Chen Bailey asked, "Why do you need them?" Lu Shu acted dumb. "Them? What are you talking about?" Chen Bailey laughed aloud. "So I've returned you the favor." Lu Shu knew what he was referring to. "Sure you have. Who was not selfish?" With tens of thousands of bronze armor, the border of the heavenly network would be impregnable unless Class A's or B's had come themselves. At this moment, Lu Shu suddenly thought of something. As his mask was given by the puppet master himself, it was very possible that the puppet master would trace down this line to find him. What the heck? Was he in danger? Chapter 629, Where is my small silver fish? Transportation of the tens of thousands of bronze armor sets became the most crucial task at hand. Everyone understood its significance, as the excellent defense it provided would drastically increase the individual combat effectiveness of Heavenly Network soldiers. The usual countermeasure against such heavily armored troops would be the employment of elemental-type metahumans, as their armor could only guard against physical attacks. However, hardly any organization could manage a huge army of well-disciplined metahumans. The military carriers drove towards the capital under Chan Bailey's supervision. The very fact that a Class A's protection was necessary for the transport of a pile of armor could reflect the degree of emphasis the Heavenly Network placed on it. All Daoyuan class students conscientiously surrendered their armor to the people in charge. Their military contributions were recorded as well. Although some of the armor was bought by girls for the ones they liked, no one would be so greedy to claim the military credit for themselves. It was a tempting thought indeed, but one would certainly have his reputation tainted by doing so. Despite the high price quoted for the armor, in fact, one set of armor or the military credit it was the equivalent of, was worth much more than 500,000 yuan. Yet, conventional thinking made the students unable to realize the truth, until they received their cultivation techniques and promotion of military ranks. Only then did they turn their grudges towards the Flood of Bronze to sincere gratitude. Members of the Flood of Bronze, including Mo Chenkong, still had to return to their own cultivation college in the end. But over the short span of only 10 days, the name of Flood of Bronze had become their title of honor. This time, all the Daoyuan class students were involved in the military training. Hence, no one was unaware of the glorious accomplishments of the Flood of Bronze on Safety Island. After they returned to school, all of its members would carry a sense of pride for their common identity. Brother Shu, we hope to see you again. Mo Chenkong led the members of the Flood of Bronze to bid Lu Shu farewell. Lu Shu smiled and said, "Take care of yourselves. I wish you all the best." Then Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu left the Lopner campsite at once on the special car arranged by Chen Bailey. They had to head to the nearest city and wait for the next flight back to Yuzhou. Instead of staying in their hotel room, Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu climbed to the rooftop of the 27-story building. They extended their lower legs over the rooftop. At the moment, the setting sun was hanging over the horizon, spreading peace and quietness across the world. "Lu Shu, where is my small silver fish?" Lu Xiaoyu asked, expressionless. "Of course it's with me. But now we have no utensils, and we can't eat it raw." "Stop staring at me," replied Lu Shu. He tried to fool her because it was almost impossible to even find a similar fish right now. They were still in a depopulated area. "Let me have a look at it," said Lu Xiaoyu. "Do you not trust me?" Lu Shu pretended to be unhappy. "No, I don't." "Well, chaos ate the fish," Lu Shu said, distress all over his face. Lu Xiaoyu would never give up until she got what she wanted. Then, Lu Shu lowered his voice and explained Chaos' background story. In the end, he added, helplessly, "Actually I also didn't expect it to wake up suddenly and eat that fish." "Okay." Lu Xiaoyu gave a nod of understanding. Lu Shu smiled and said, "I knew it. Xiaoyu, you are the most understanding." Before he could finish his sentence, Lu Xiaoyu interrupted, "Since Chaos or whatever it is ate my small silver fish, it'll be fine if you let me eat Chaos." From Lu Shu's distress, plus 666. It's born from the divine water and it was only loosely related to the evil dragon by blood before it became a weapon spirit. Therefore, strictly speaking, it's not a living thing now, Lu Shu explained, trying to say that it was not edible. "Hey, Lu Shu," sadness suddenly surfaced on Lu Xiaoyu's face. "A girl I met in the military training died in the remains." Lu Shu suddenly went silent. Then, he said, "We always have to face these, don't we?" "I wasn't that close to her," Lu Xiaoyu said softly. "She was pretty when she smiled. She would always offer to share her snacks with me when she saw me. We didn't talk much. It's not that I'm very saddened by her death. I'm just thinking how heartbroken her family must be." Lu Shu was suddenly reminded of what Taniguchi Bundai had said to him when she made a 90 degrees bow to him in the courtyard. Those words flowed out of his mouth naturally, but some things must be done. "You've changed, Lu Shu," Lu Xiaoyu said in a serious tone, this time, for real. Lu Shu remained silent for a long while, as though being surrounded by a warm web. It was not that he wanted to be selfless, or willing to contribute, but he had been influenced unconsciously by those people's action, which had reminded him of the importance of honesty and sincerity. There were things he must do. He would do it, but only if he wanted to. Suddenly, he smiled. Lu Shu rubbed Lu Xiaoyu's head and asked, "You've changed too, haven't you?" Lu Shu. Yes. Lu Shu turned to look at Lu Xiaoyu. "Anyone can die, except you," said Lu Xiaoyu. "Xiaoyu," replied Lu Shu, gazing at the distant sun as it finally disappeared at the end of the cityscape, "neither of us can die." Luhai Lane Courtyard House, the capital. Shi Xuejin was reading a thread-bound book in his deck chair. Suddenly Nie Ting passed him a not-so-important document, a record of Lu Shu's doings in the remains this time. There was no mention of the black armor, but only a detailed account of how Lu Shu had eliminated the threat outside the remains, formed the flood of bronze to alleviate the overall combat pressure and ventured into the depths of the sea alone. The document was definitely compiled by Chen Bailey because no one else knew what happened in the sea. Shi Xuejin read through and smiled. A heart of gold, right. A fist of iron, also right. But why was he struck by lightning? Are you really surprised? Nie Ting said, emotionless. To him, that fellow's irritating words and actions deserved a bloody lightning strike long time ago. Don't be angry, Shi Xuejin said. After some thoughts, he continued, "We've discussed the divine punishment and I think the lightning must be a form of the punishment. The transformation of certain creatures will attract lightning, though the ceiling seems higher for humans. I always believed that reaching the peak of Class A will encounter divine punishment because it defies the natural order. Hence, it's unrealistic to think that Lu Shu himself was punished. Instead, it must be due to some creature that was with him." Shi Xuejin had correctly deduced what happened to Lu Shu with just a few sentences. Chapter 630, The Mysteries of the Puppet Master. "If it's a creature, what can it be?" mused Nie Ting. "There's no way to know. After all, it can't be he himself. Otherwise, he would be even stronger than you now," Shi Xuejin said with a smile, "but I suggest you talk to him about the divine punishment, as you are only one step away from that juncture of life and death anyway. I'm afraid you will be punished too if you really can reach that level. Hence, he may give you some useful advice." Nie Ting's brows suddenly twitched slightly on his expressionless face. "Are you telling me to ask him to teach me how to survive the divine punishment?" Well. Shi Xuejin quickly switched his eyes back to his books. "I didn't say that. But isn't that what you meant? Then did it ever occur to you that Lu Shu is probably the sole survivor who has survived the divine punishment in the past hundreds of years?" Shi Xuejin added again, "In any case, you can't deny that Lu Shu is indeed more experienced than you in this aspect. Why? Is he better because he's been struck by lightning?" Shi Xuejin went quiet. All along, Nie Ting had always prioritized the greater good. In recent years, he had sacrificed too much for this belief. However, at this critical moment, Nie Ting had done something irrelevant to the grand picture, when he was well aware that Lu Shu was the best candidate in the heavenly network for overseas affairs and that Lu Shu's experience in surviving the punishment would be of great help to him in the future. But Shi Xuejin understood Nie Ting was not entirely at fault, because Lu Shu was particularly talented at pissing people off. Honestly speaking, Shi Xuejin was also curious about Lu Shu's survival. Legend had it that no one could live through the divine punishment, so how did Lu Shu do it with his sheer Class B abilities? At this moment, Nie Ting took out his phone and dialed Lu Shu's number calmly. That made Shi Xuejin unspeakably astonished, as even someone as proud as Nie Ting would lower himself and ask Lu Shu for advice out of the fear of the divine punishment. After Lu Shu picked up the call, both of them remained silent for more than 10 seconds. In the end, Nie Ting took the initiative to break the ice. "I heard that you were struck by lightning?" "Pa." The call was hung up. Ting, who used to be forever composed, suddenly burst into laughter. Wonderful. Shi Xuejin was dumbstruck. We must watch out for the puppet master. Ting suddenly changed the topic. According to Heavenly King Chen, he may not be as strong as Li Xianyi and I, but stronger than Heavenly King Chen. In addition, his moves are unpredictable. We can't be complacent if there's bound to be a fight for our lives or to the death. That was the truth. There was no such thing as the stronger one in terms of power would always secure the victory. Practitioners who won through erratic moves were always looked down upon. But the puppet master was an exception, as he had even provoked the ire of other Class A's. At this moment, Ting suddenly received a piece of information. The South American remains had closed. Countless lives were lost during the battle between the puppet master and the saint. No winner. Ting and Shi Xuejin looked at each other in shock. No one knew what had happened inside before the closure of the remains. They had expected the Phoenix Society to secure the relic as they held the geographic advantage in the two Americas. But this result was definitely unforeseen. Shi Xuejin drew a startled breath. 2 puppet masters. 2 top power Class A's? My father has certainly not mentioned this before. Maybe the ancient Yi family we faced was simply the tip of the iceberg, Ting said, his tone was somber. The origin of the puppet masters was certainly mysterious. Just when they were cautious about the presence of one puppet master, they realized there were more than one of them. Chen Bailey said that the puppet master might have targeted Lu Shu, and it's only a matter of time before he finds Lu Shu. Should we prepare for it? Shi Xuejin asked. It will take a while. Order the overseas personnel to watch the puppet master's movement closely. Report immediately once he is spotted near the border, said Ting, but have you considered that actually none of us knows any of the puppet master's true appearance? We always think that those in the black robes are them. At first I thought maybe they could be very ugly. But now, think about it, what if they are not? What if they are just like you and me, like normal people? It's too easy to blend in. Class A's can't be guarded against easily. Alert Lu Shu. We can't endanger him because of our carelessness, Shi Xuejin said. Ting nodded and phoned Lu Shu again. In spite of their unhappy encounters, Ting would not purposely act against Lu Shu at this moment. Lu Shu must be well informed about the puppet masters before it was too late. After all, Lu Shu had left too many clues and he would not be able to keep himself in hiding for long. However, sorry, the number you are dialing is unavailable. Ting's expressions darkened at once. Is this his ringtone or has he blacklisted me? Probably his ringtone, Shi Xuejin bit his gum. It was them who started the trick. You call, Ting said and hung up the phone. Before they boarded the plane back to Yuzhou, Lu Shu had first received Ting's call, and now Shi Xuejin's. At first, he did not plan to receive any more calls, but upon second thoughts, Shi Xuejin must have something important to say in the second call. Lu Shu's face grew grave after he put down his phone. Meanwhile, the boarding gate was already closing. After they were seated on the plane, Lu Xiaoyu asked, did something happen? Yes. There are more than one puppet master. Also, Shi Xuejin warned me to watch out for them, because I probably painted a target on my back, Lu Shu said with a sigh. Then fight them, Lu Xiaoyu said straightforwardly. I will probably lose, Lu Shu's brains throbbed in pain. They were 2 Class A's. Then hide first. Fight them later, Lu Xiaoyu replied as though it was common sense. But Lu Shu still had the feeling that something was wrong. During the flight, he quickly scrolled through the past records of distress points. After more than 2 hours, the Blood Devil's name had finally appeared, followed by one called Tiger Ji. Lu Shu gasped in shock. That was the reason he felt strange at Cloud Yi's name back then. It was because the puppet master's name did not match with what he had remembered earlier. He would have realized on the spot that the one he met in the sea was not the previous one at all if his memory had been better. What would happen if he had been targeted by 2 Class A's? Lu Shu pondered seriously about Shi Xuejin's advice. Maybe he really had to avoid the danger by using another face.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty, man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens.